YouTube channel, please like, comment, and hit that bell notification.
And the FBI will resume tomorrow in their efforts to find what they're looking for, whom they're looking for in Solebury Township. Meanwhile, Cosmo DiNardo is now a person of interest, and oh yes, he has been released on $1 million bail. It is Tuesday night, and the big story on Action News tonight is attracting enormous attention in the tri-state area and across the country. Authorities in Bucks County say they will not rest until they find the 4 men. Action News reporter Dan Quayer is live in Solebury Township. Annie McCormick is in Lahaska tonight. Dan, let's start with you. A huge effort so far by local lawmen and the FBI, but so far, no payoff.
That's right, Jim. And so far, Cosmo DiNardo remains the only person of interest identified in the mysterious disappearances. They fear he is a flight risk, which is why authorities sought such a high bail on an unrelated weapons charge. But tonight, he was able to post the required 10% of his $1 million bail, and now he's out there somewhere as the search for the missing men goes on.
It's not just this single property. We have people combing the entire county.
Bucks County DA Matt Weintraub describing the intensive search for the 4 men missing since last week. Most of the focus has been on a vast 90-plus acre farm on Lower York Road owned by the family of Cosmo DiNardo.
I can't say that the whole entire property is a crime scene, but we've been going through the entire property.
Sources tell ABC News that a ping from one of the missing men's cell phones led investigators to the property. An army of federal and local law officers have been using everything from major construction equipment to sifting equipment in the search. Meanwhile, friends of the 4 missing men kept vigil nearby.
It's hard. We're all just shooken up by the whole thing. We're scared.
He was just so close to me as one of my best friends, and he was such a good person. You know, everyone deserved a Jimmy in their life, and now he's not. I'm sorry.
Walter Masinkowski says they were hanging out with Jimi T on the 4th of July, the night before he disappeared. They went to school together at Holy Ghost Prep. Till this happened, he had never heard the name Cosmo DiNardo.
Never seen him before. Never heard of the name.
You never see them hanging out together?
No.
Friend of Dean Finocchiaro never heard of him either.
I just heard of it now, I never heard of his name before that.
But whatever the relationship between DiNardo and the 4 men is, something authorities are keeping close to the vest.
We still have our detectives and investigators working on that. I am not at liberty to disclose that at this point.
Again tonight, calls to the DiNardo family and to Cosmo's lawyer seeking comment were not returned. We note that DiNardo has not been charged in connection with the missing men.
News just after midnight came word of a major break in the case of 4 missing men from Bucks County. It is terribly sad news for the families who have been waiting and praying.
We have found human remains.
Remains of one of the young men have positively been identified, but the district attorney says that there are more remains in that common grave. So the investigation in Solebury Township will continue today. Meanwhile, here in Doylestown, we are hearing from sources that the parents of the person of interest have been subpoenaed to appear before a Bucks County grand jury this morning.
Get the backup, dig the hole, said a prayer, turn him in the hole.
I don't know why I did.
He's a psychopath. Save yourself, because he'll bury you, just like he did to those 4 boys.
Cosmo is a natural-born killer. He's just a bad seed.
In today's episode, we'll be covering a bone-chilling case that shook a nation, the murder of 4 young men back in July of 2017 in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. On July 5th and July 7th, 2017, 4 young men disappeared without a trace. The victims were 19-year-old Jimi Patrick, 22-year-old Mark Sturgis, 21-year-old Thomas Mayo, and 19-year-old Dean Finocchiaro. The alleged perpetrators behind these heinous crimes were cousins Cosmo DiNardo and Sean Michael Kratz. At just 20 years old, these 2 individuals committed acts of unspeakable horror that would forever scar the lives of their victims' loved ones. The horrifying series of events began on July 5th when Jimi Patrick was reported missing. A promising student at Loyola, Maryland, Jimi met with DiNardo that night to purchase marijuana, a decision that would prove to be fatal. DiNardo carelessly shot him and used a backhoe to bury his lifeless body. 2 days later, on July 7th, Dean Finocchiaro was last seen being picked up by an unidentified person, potentially DiNardo or Kratz. His remains, along with Mark Sturgis and Thomas Mayo, were discovered on July 12th, concealed on a farm owned by DiNardo's parents. Finocchiaro and DiNardo had a seemingly good relationship, making the betrayal even more sinister. Dean, like Patrick, had agreed to buy marijuana from DiNardo, and this was the first murder involving Sean Kratz. Both men brutally shot Finocchiaro, and his body was gruesomely placed in a metal oil bin converted into a makeshift coffin that the two referred to as the pig roaster. Mark Sturgis and Tom Mayo were close friends who worked together. On July 7th, they went to meet DiNardo at a church to buy marijuana. Instead, they were met with violence, as DiNardo shot both young men before using a backhoe to run over the still-alive Mayo. Their bodies, along with Finocchiaro's, were then placed in the same chilling metal tank. DiNardo's failed attempt to burn the bodies using gasoline added another layer of horror to this already nightmarish situation. As investigators delved deeper into the case, a shocking detail emerged. Cosmo DiNardo's family was significantly wealthy, owning a 90-acre farm in Salisbury Township. Police arrested DiNardo on an unrelated gun charge, but his family quickly paid his $1 million bail. This affluent background added an unsettling dimension to the narrative, raising questions about the influence of privilege on the unfolding events. But the disturbing revelations did not stop there. It was discovered that Cosmo DiNardo had a troubling psychiatric history, marked by episodes of mental instability and erratic behavior. His parents even filed a lawsuit against the doctor who treated him, stating that the doctor had removed him off the medication and diagnosed his mental illness as in remission. The lawsuit was later dismissed. The investigation into these gruesome murders was a race against time. Authorities were led to the 90-acre farm owned by DiNardo's parents, Antonio and Sandra DiNardo, where they made the horrifying discovery of the victims' remains. During the investigation, Cosmo DiNardo shockingly confessed not only to the 4 July 2017 murders, but also claimed responsibility for at least 2 other murders in Philadelphia over the past 5 years. However, the validity of these additional claims remain unvalidated by the authorities. The motives behind these senseless killings remain disturbingly elusive. According to DiNardo, his motivations stem from feeling cheated or threatened during drug transactions, leading him to commit these unimaginable acts of violence.
Today, more than 2 years after that grisly crime, Sean Kratz has learned his punishment. He'll now spend life in prison. It is Monday afternoon. I'm Brian Taft.
And I'm Jeanette Reyes. And the big story on Action News is the sentencing for Kratz. The 22-year-old was convicted of first-degree murder and other offenses last week.
And of course, Kratz's cousin, Cosmo DiNardo, already serving 4 life sentences for masterminding what many describe as the most heinous crime in Bucks County history. Once again, Sean Kratz sentenced to life without parole.
The murders of these 4 young men serve a haunting reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. We must strive to create a world where such tragedies become unthinkable. May the memories of Dean Finocchiaro, Thomas Mayo, Jimi Patrick, and Mark Sturgis live on. Let me know down in the comment box if you think this is a case of mental health illness or just 2 young, crazy kids out to try to lift something out of a movie. Like always, drop those prayer hands in the comment box. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again. Rest in peace to everyone involved.